Owlboy and Hyperlight Drifter have been two of my favourite games this year. While the gameplay between the two is not similar in any regard, Hyperlight Drifter demands quick reactions to combat-intense enemies densely packed into bleak dungeons, forcing a mix of dashing, shooting, and slashing to power forward, while Owlboy feels a lot slower by comparison, and it mixes classic Zelda dungeon puzzle design with Metal Slug-esque shooting. Despite that, they do share some similarities. Both were passion projects of small teams, Heart Machine and Dpad Studios respectively, each bound to their own heartfelt stories of development. Alx Preston, the man behind Hyperlight Drifter, suffers from a heart condition which could take his life at any time, shining through in both the game's story and themes, while Owlboy was in the making for 9 years, having started development back for the Xbox 360 before finally coming out nearly a decade later, resulting in a very emotional launch day for the studio. Like their respective developers, both share bittersweet stories about overcoming great personal difficulties, and both share in the dawn of a new style of retro-inspired games, the high-bit era. Jo-Remi Madsen, programmer and co-founder of Dpad Studios, wrote a blog post on the company's website describing how pixel art is entering a new era. Madsen writes, "We recently showed our game around, and one thing people seem to keep coming back to is the fact it looks like an SNES game, but better. With the recent announcement of Sonic Mania and Hyperlight Drifter, something fantastic is happening. Pixel games are back, and people don't think they look like crap anymore." While these games may be paying homage to the 16-bit era that started with the Super Nintendo and Sega Mega Drive, they're working beyond the limitations of the tech in the 90s. If you've ever played a classic game on Nintendo's Virtual Console service, you'll notice that, in order to remain faithful to their source material, the games have simply been upscaled to be played on modern TVs or consoles. Given that the Wii and 3DS only output in 480p and 280p respectively, this wasn't a huge deal. While the Wii U is able to output at 1080p, it has a significantly smaller Virtual Console library than its lower resolution counterparts, and I would wager to guess as this being the reason why. What Madsen says this new style of pixel art games brings to the table are games built from the ground up for widescreen. They're not made to be played on lower resolutions because that would cut out a lot of the beautiful art designers poured hours upon hours into. Of course, Hyperlight Drifter and Owlboy are not the pioneers of this dawning new era. Madsen just happened to be the one noticing the trend and decided to coin a phrase. Madsen cites in the article that Fez was the earliest game he had seen in the style, and whether that is true or not, it was definitely the first to gain mainstream attention, setting the trend in motion. In reference to Dpad's previous release, Madsen goes on to state, "Players were rating our game Savant negatively because we lacked widescreen support. If Shovel Knight had opted to work with the old NES resolution, they would have discovered the same issue we did." And that's absolutely true. Last year, 2D pixel fighter Yatagarasu came out, paying homage to one of my favourite games in the genre, Street Fighter III Third Strike. While the game looked and played beautifully, it lacked the widescreen support that in turn cost the game sales and a day one audience, which could be the reason the developers have stopped supporting the game, even over a year later not delivering on promises made for their Indiegogo campaign. This proves that, while it's good to pay homage to the classics, doing so in a modern sense is the only feasible way to compete with modern day games. This isn't to say games with lower resolutions can't have amazing art. Using Yatagarasu as an example again, it has some finely detailed character animations that really stand strong. It's that the market doesn't want to react to these kinds of games, and they're almost limited to PC storefronts or maybe the 3DS. While games that support widescreen can easily be played on any modern console, yielding a much wider audience. With a lack of restrictive sound cards, this has opened up these games to be accompanied by fantastically composed pieces of music. Not to say that pixel art games shouldn't have chiptune soundtracks. Just listen to Shovel Knight's score by Jake Kaufman. We've reached a time of lessened restrictions for these kinds of games, so why not break down every barrier possible while we're at it? Just because we want to play games like the ones from days gone by, doesn't mean we have to play by their limitations either. Time has always been a major factor in the development process. A lot of games are met with strict deadlines, that's a given. However, the sheer amount of detail that can be achieved with higher resolutions now is staggering. Just looking to Owlboy, it is one of the best looking games I've played recently. A clear amount of effort went into making every part of this experience eye-catching. Despite it having a now famously long development cycle, a lot of time went into the art as opposed to significantly fleshing out dungeons or the overworld. Although personally I don't mind this, because I would prefer a short game that holds my attention the entire way, rather than a big bloated mess that's lost its focus. A lot of the games Madsen references are yet to be released, games such as Chasm and Sonic Mania, but judging from their trailers and screenshots, the new era of high-bit is going to be a big one that will grow in ways we can't even imagine. When looking to pushing pixel art in new directions, Simon S. Anderson, artist at Dpad Studios and brainchild behind Owlboy, has said, "Would artists abandon the art of painting once the photo camera was invented? Would artists abandon sculpting once 3D printing became a thing? They wouldn't, but they would need to push the medium even further than before to remain impressive." And that's what we're seeing here with these upcoming and recently released games. Stardew Valley is another game from this year that was so good, in fact I'm afraid to admit the sheer amount of time I've put into my digital farm. And it has some genuinely breathtaking moments, especially those seen in the transitions between seasons. While indie gaming seems to be at the forefront of this new era, with the notable exception of the previously mentioned Sonic Mania, I'd like to see Nintendo do something with this. I know they've been skimming through on re-releasing old games either through HD upgrades or via the eShop, but I would love to see high-bit remakes of classic Mario platformers. Or why not go all the way in and start designing new 2D Mario platformers in this style? While Nintendo isn't usually one to take a step back on their design philosophies, they have done something similar in the past with the original Super Mario Bros. Trilogy and the All-Stars package. With technology where it is now, I think it'll be interesting to see the plumber return to the former Mushroom Kingdom in highly detailed worlds. To remain relevant in the modern era, pixel art had to evolve, and this is just the beginning of what's to come. While some will scorn at the idea of pixels over polygons, there is always room for both, and it just boils down to playing to the strength of your team and what they can do to shine brightest.